Welcome to Oklahoma Gardening. Today we're taking a look at the garden at the First Americans Museum and learn how they're using it to share their culture. We also visited with some scientists from Greece and are learning about their plant research. And finally, our friends at Greenleaf Nursery share some of their new holly plant introductions. Underwriting assistance for our program is provided by the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing. Oklahoma Gardening is also a proud partner with Shape Your Future, a program of the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust. Shape Your Future provides resources for Oklahomans to make the healthy choice the easy choice.
I love sharing with you guys the cool things that plants can do. We're back here at the student farm. I want to share with you a tropical plant that you might find in some Oklahoma landscapes. It's important to know which plants we are dealing with so that we can continue to maintain them successfully for years to come. Today we're here at the First American Museum, and joining me is Chef Loretta Oden. Chef, thank you so much for inviting us out into your kitchen garden, essentially, but it's full of some really native yummies, right? Tell us a little bit about the plants we have here.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we have a lot of herbs, edible flowers. Most everything that's out here is edible, so that we can use it in the kitchen, on the plates, and all of that. A lot of things that have to do with our traditional foodways, like medicinal teas and to make tinctures and all of that. Just an overall look at, you know, what we consumed as Native peoples in the past, and bringing that forward into the future.
And you guys as a museum are representing all of the nations, right? Or a lot of them anyway?
Well, a lot of them. We're representing the 39 nations that now call Oklahoma home, that are literally from all over North America. So we have people from, you know, all regions who came here with different foodways, you know, different plants and animals in their particular regions. And we just kind of all got plopped down in old Indian territory. So we're just kind of making the best of that. And this museum is really so exciting. It's really an opportunity for us to tell the story in our own words.
Right, and of course, you know, food is always a big part of culture. So there's only so many plants that can grow in our climate of Oklahoma, but you guys are doing a fabulous job here. And a lot of the native plants actually have a wide range, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Especially what people consider weeds. I'm the crazy old lady in the neighborhood that when I smell Roundup in the air, I go running up and down the street and say, don't spray that, that's food.
So tell us a few of the plants that you have here and how they're utilized.
Oh, we're using a lot of wild plants. We're using a lot of plants that just kind of grow out in the yard. This is the goldenrod.
Right.
People think of as ragweed.
Right.
Makes you sneeze. This is almost a miracle medicine. You know, tinctures, teas, poultices for wounds and all of that. Just great, great stuff. Sage. You know, we not only eat it, but we pray with it. We have several varieties of sage here. We have amaranth, you know, the beautiful amaranth that's just now getting a good start.
Right.
But, you know, I use a lot of amaranth and quinoa in the kitchen. Those are just kind of superfoods that people are really just now learning about. So most everything here is edible. The marigolds even. Everyone grows marigolds in their garden, thinking, well, it draws the aphids away from the other plants, but it's also edible. I pull the blossoms off and sprinkle it on my dishes for desserts and other dishes.
So I know you guys have this, and you obviously are using part of this in the kitchen. Can you give us a hint of what we might find on the menu?
Oh my goodness, you know, we are traditionally pretty much a plant-based society. So of course the corn, beans, and squash, every kind of bean imaginable, chili peppers, tomatoes. people are really not aware of how many foods are indigenous to the Americas. You know, these foods left our shores and went around the world and came back as Irish potatoes and Swiss chocolate and all of that. But yeah, we're using this in the restaurant as ingredients, as garnish with the edible flowers.
So tell us a little bit about how this garden is utilized by the museum.
So we're using it as a teaching garden for the children in fam camp. My target audience, because we've got to get these kiddos young.
Before they think these are weeds,
Yeah,
right?
before they think they're weeds. And to get them out here, they help us plant, they make seed balls, and then when they grow something, they're really intrigued to taste it. Mm-hmm. So we've had them eating stuff that they would never have dreamt of eating before. But as you go through the garden, this is also open to the public all of the time. Any visitor to the museum has access to this garden. And as they go through the garden, we have plant identifiers, and we also have QR codes on these little stakes that you can access to get some recipes from Chef Loretta on how to use some of these beautiful plants.
Okay, and I know you've been a chef for a long time and have been working with indigenous plants for a long time as well.
Yes.
So if somebody's looking for a resource, I think you might have a book you could suggest to us.
I do have a book. Thank you for mentioning that. It dropped in October, my first after 35 years of doing this, but it's called Corn Dance, Inspired First American Cuisine. So it has a little bit of my story, but it has some it's geared towards the home cook, so it's not real complicated, and some great recipes utilizing our indigenous foodstuffs.
Well, this is great information, and we're so happy that there is this museum here as a resource, and that there are people working to preserve these native traditions. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Today, Julie Bisbee, Executive Director of TSET, is joining us once again in one of the beautiful gardens that Shape Your Future has helped establish here in Oklahoma. Let's talk a little bit about TSET and Shape Your Future.
Yeah, so TSET is a state agency that makes grants to improve health, and one of the things that we focus on is helping to increase access to fresh fruits and vegetables, and also helping people stay active. So gardening really is in line with a lot of our goals.
Absolutely, and here we're learning about how indigenous food is so reliant on some of these native plants and how that helps to better health.
Absolutely. You see a lot of fresh things that could be grown on a patio. That's why I think this garden is so great, because it's a small area, it's in an urban setting, but also it is producing vegetables that can be used in the restaurant. And this also shows our viewers, you know, this is something you can do if you just have a patio.
Right, and let's talk about the age range that they're able to incorporate into this garden a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know they have children that are part of the camps here that come and help, and you know, this is something that all ages can do, and there's lots of ways that you can do it with containers, and also learning about what are healthy foods, where does our food come from.
Well, they have their QR codes out here if you're looking for specific resources about this garden, but let's talk about some of the resources Shape Your Future has as well.
Sure, on shapeyourfutureok.com we have lots of things to do. Planting schedules, how to start your own gardens, recipes for how to use those fresh fruits and vegetables. So it's really about making it easy. We know, you know, sometimes in your hectic life it's hard to work those fruits and vegetables in, but I am a big believer that getting in the garden really does help us de-stress and also helps us improve our health.
Well, not only that, but I've been to a grocery store where I see some of these vegetables and I'm like, what do I do with this, right?
Right. So lots of recipes, lots of easy things you can do. You can have your kiddos help you, or just, you know, you don't want to cook tonight, here are some no-cook options.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Great. Thank you.
For more information about Shape Your Future, visit their website.
One of the unique things about working at a university is the exposure to so many different cultures and scientists from around the world. Recently, there were 2 plant and soil scientists that came to visit OSU, and we had the opportunity to sit down and listen about their university over in Greece and also the research they're conducting.
I am Eirini Katsalirou. I am an assistant professor of soil science at the Department of Food Science and Technology at the Ionian University at Greece. I decided long ago to come and do my PhD studies here under Dr. Deng, the soil microbiologist at the Plant and Soil Sciences Department back then. So I have been connected since 2003 with the OSU, and my studies lasted for 3 years here. Then 2006 I went back home to my university, and since then I serve there soil science and soil science as it is connected to food production and quality. All of the Ionian Islands have some kind of agricultural activity. The major agricultural activity happens on the island of Kefalonia, where my department is. So what we do produce there, it is, we do have olive groves, so we produce olive oil, excellent quality, and olive fruits. We do produce, we do have grape vineyards, so we do produce excellent wines. We do have on the islands at least 10 wineries. Not very big scale, not very small scale, but their products, their wines are exceptional. Also, we do have animal husbandry. So we do have production of meat, goat and sheep meat and milk. And based on this milk, we have cheese production, which is feta cheese mostly, which is of exceptional quality also. And also we do have fisheries. We do produce organic fish on the island. It's one of the biggest fish farms of the country, and it has most of its products exported all over the world, including the United States. We have honey production, and of course we have all these beautiful little places with smaller production of vegetables, of herbs and other little things. So this is the total, in a nutshell, the agricultural production of the island.
Kalimera. I'm Aris Gerakis. I'm a visiting scholar at the Department of Food Science and Technology at the Ionian University in Greece. I am an agronomist by training. However, in recent years, we have expanded our research to other fields like botany, both physiology and systematics. We're especially interested in finding ways to cultivate native plants of Ionian Islands in Greece. We're particularly attracted by orchids, native orchids. We have more than 220 species in Greece. And it is quite a challenge. It is quite a challenge to cultivate native orchids because they have certain peculiarities in their biological cycle. And so far we have at least partial success, and we hope to succeed more in the future. Other than that, we have a project called Digiflora, and this is a project to represent and showcase the natural biodiversity of our islands using modern technologies such as virtual reality and augmented reality. So we have traveled all the islands, we have surveyed certain biotopes of exceptional aesthetic and environmental value. We recorded plant species that have some unique value, not just aesthetic, but ethnobotanical value. that they have that are connected to local culture, local cuisine, tradition, medicine, and so on. And through this site, you can experience 360 panoramas, three-dimensional panoramas, either on your mobile device or on your computer screen. The full experience comes with special glasses. You can wear virtual reality glasses, but you don't have to have those. You can still experience a lot from your screen. So you select biotopes, and then you do a virtual tour in these biotopes, and there you see, we call them hotspots on particular plant species. You can click on the hotspot and read ethnobotanical information in two languages, English and Greek, about that particular species. And there is also audio in English and Greek. You can hear the information spoken. It's primarily targeted, of course, to local people to get to know their own flora, that people who have been raised in the city are not very aware of the natural environment. So we want to educate the local students, local citizens, and then visitors. Visitors can have an experience before they visit our islands. So from the comfort of their home, they can experience the natural environment. And then also after they visit, they can use this website, these tools, to orient themselves and select trails of particular ecological and ethnobotanical significance.
Joining us today is Mark Andrews with Greenleaf Nursery, and we actually got Mark over here to Stillwater today because we're looking at a few new plants that are on OSU's campus called purple hollies, and you've got a couple of different cultivars we're going to talk about.
Exactly.
It doesn't look purple to me, Mark.
No, the purple comes from the fact that there are two series of hollies that have been out on the market. One is the red hollies that are southern hollies that are not cold hardy, but they're vigorous growing, so they make a nice plant. And then blue hollies are known up north for their cold hardiness and their real dark foliage, color on those plants.
Okay, and so that's just kind of a classification of hollies, right?
These are a cross between a red holly and a blue holly.
Okay.
And so we dubbed them the purple hollies.
Excellent. So we're getting a little bit of the heat tolerance, but also hopefully the cold hardiness.
Cold hardiness as well,
okay.
Yes, and an increased vigor as well. And really what we've been surprised about is that each one of them is more vigorous and roots easier and grows better than the parent plants do.
Really? Okay.
So we've kind of, in one generation, we've gotten a lot of improvements in an upright holly.
All right, so you've got 4 seedlings from those crosses
Correct.
that you're kind of introducing to the market, putting it out there. We've got some on OSU's campus.
Right.
This one behind us, tell us about this one.
So this one is called My Lady, and this one has more of the traditional kind of green, dark green foliage that you associate with an upright holly. Mm-hmm. And it's the most vigorous of the 4, so it will grow the largest. We expect that it'll probably reach maybe 15, 20 feet tall, and 8 to 12 feet wide is what we're kind of anticipating, maybe a little bit wider than that. And really where we see this one fitting in well is this is a good replacement for Nellie R. Stevens holly, which is kind of a traditional holly that most people use as a screening holly, but it gets way too big for today's landscapes.
Okay.
And this one is more contained, but still offers you fast growth, good color, good full plant. All 4 of the selections are what's called parthenocarpic, which means that they will set berries without a male pollinator.
Okay, I was going to ask about that.
So these will go ahead and set berries. They're all females. And if you have a male in the neighborhood, you'll get an even better berry set.
What color berries? Red, orange?
They'll be green throughout the growing season, and then they'll turn red in the fall and winter time.
Okay, and the ones behind us, we've got a lot of spring growth coming out on them, and so they'll probably get trimmed up a little bit later
you
on.
can kind of tell by looking at them. We've got the new flush is a lighter green, and as it matures to that dark green color on these.
And I love the actual leaf shape. It's a lot neater than I think the Nellies are.
Yeah, the leaf shape is bigger. It is fuller. It looks like a fuller plant, and even though it looks like it has thorns on it, and looks like it would be sharp and spiny, like some hollies can get that way. These are not real. They're not dangerous. Let's put it that way. They're softer needle.
They sort of remind me of an oak leaf, the little scallops on it. So you've got 3 others. Let's talk real quickly about those other 3. Monarch is a pretty popular one.
Monarch is the other one that we think is going to be real popular. It's more of a tight pyramidal. It's slower growing than My Lady a little bit, but it's still a good vigorous grower for you. And that one we think will get about 8 to 12 feet tall, so a little bit smaller stature than My Lady and narrower as well. And where we see that fitting in the landscape is where people have been using Oakland holly, which is real popular. Monarch is going to be a replacement in those areas. It's more cold hardy. We're not saying it's another zone cold hardy, but we have seen that it is much cold hardier than the others, and it has darker foliage. So when we look at Monarch, you'll see that the foliage on it is a much darker blue-green color, almost like, getting closer to a black color. And in wintertime, it gets even darker.
Okay, and then the other 2.
The other 2, the third one is Crown Point, which is unique among itself because it's more columnar. Okay. So it's more of an upright grower. Once again, we expect the height to be, let's say, 10 to 15 feet tall, somewhere in that range, but much narrower. So it's going to be one that probably like 3 to 4 feet wide, rather than getting broad. It just likes to go upright as a columnar growth habit. And then the 4th one is called Grace, and Grace is the newest one. It's a little bit smaller stature. Ultimately, they'll all get very similar as far as size goes. So Grace and Monarch are going to be very similar sized as far as 8, 12 feet tall, maybe 6 feet wide, something like that. Pyramidal shape. But Grace has even darker foliage, so it's really, really dark and gets almost totally black in the wintertime. Okay. And so it's a really nice looking plant as well.
Well, it's great to have options, especially here in Oklahoma. We know we get those extremes of hot and cold in the wintertime. So looking forward to having some plants that can handle that.
Well, and that's what we're looking forward to, because they have shown us that they can tolerate these conditions much better. And, even like with the plants that we're looking at right here, the first year that they were in the ground, they suffered a little bit of winter burn. But the thing about it is that they didn't drop the foliage right away. They held onto the foliage, and then they flushed right out and covered over to where you couldn't tell that they had been injured at all in the previous winter. So, I mean, that's another big plus on these, is that they look good. Even if they get a little bit of damage, they still look good and will fill in real well. Where other hollies, they'll drop their leaves and it takes them a long time to recover.
And you guys are, trialing these around the country too, right? Not just here in Stillwater, obviously.
No, I mean, obviously we wanted to find out, so we brought them to Stillwater to see how they would do in central Oklahoma and compare it up. But we've put them in Kansas City, we've put them into West Grove, Pennsylvania, which is just south of Philadelphia. We've got some in Michigan. We've had them in Wisconsin, Iowa, and we knew we were pushing it.
Right.
And, we found out that there's places you can't put them.
Excellent.
But it gives us the idea of, okay, where can we recommend that these will work best? And we found as they went to the East Coast, they could go further up.
Okay. Because that ocean temperature
Ocean seems to moderate it a lot, and so even though there's areas up there that are zone 5, these seem to be thriving up there in that condition.
Excellent. Because they don't have the back and forth like we do
Right,
here in Oklahoma,
exactly. They don't get the extremes that we do.
Yes.
But these have held up real well. These are some of the original ones that we put out for trialing.
A couple of years old now, I think?
These are like 2 years old now, so they've gone through 2 full winters.
Okay.
Here in Oklahoma.
And they've been put through the ringer with those 2 winters.
They have.
Thank you, Mark, for sharing this with us today.
You're welcome.
There are a lot of great horticulture activities this time of year. Be sure and consider some of these events in the weeks ahead.
Join us next week on Oklahoma Gardening as we explore the pollinators that are in native landscapes.
Can't say it right in front of you, Mark. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Because I know that camera's on you.
That's the better way to have it.
With Julie Bisbee, not with, sorry. Rewind.
To find out more information about show topics as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure to visit our website at oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. Join in on Facebook and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. Tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater gem. We would like to thank our generous underwriters, the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, and Shape Your Future, a program of the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust. Additional support is also provided by Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, the Oklahoma Horticulture Society, the Tulsa Garden Club, and the Tulsa Garden Center.